Today we are going to be making an extra almondy almond and poached pear tart. This tart is basically an almond pâte sucrée tart crust that is filled with a smooth and silky almond cream and topped with poached pears that we are going to soak in a vanilla bean and apple juice infusion, and we are going to top it all off with a white chocolate Cremeux to really help balance out and round out all of the flavors here. So if you want to learn how to make this tart, keep watching. First, we are going to kickstart this dessert off with our white chocolate Cremeux so that we can get it into the molds. We are going to begin by warming up 225 grams or 1 cup of cream and 2 grams or half a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste in a pot over medium heat. And once it comes to a boil, we are going to temper the cream into 58 grams or 3 egg yolks by pouring 3/4 of our cream into the yolks and whisking that vigorously so that the yolks don't curdle and the cream can remain nice and silky. Then we are going to pour the egg mixture back into the pot and whisk that over medium heat until the eggs cook to 85 degrees Celsius or until the custard lightly coats the back of a spoon or the base of your pot like this. Once you reach this stage where the custard just begins to thicken, it's very important that you immediately remove it off the heat because you are about 1 to 2 degrees off of scrambled eggs. So make sure you're quick here and get it off the heat. Then we are going to quickly stir in 1 sheet of bloomed gelatin and pour the mixture while it's still hot over 75 grams or half a cup of white chocolate. The chocolate that I'm using is Valrhona Oat Glaze, and just stir that to dissolve everything. You want to make sure that when it comes to white chocolate, you are picking a high quality chocolate. I mean all chocolates really, but especially white chocolate. Lower quality white chocolates are super sugary and imbalanced. A good quality white chocolate should be milky and creamy, melt evenly on your tongue, and full of vanilla aroma. So trust me, do not cheap out on this step. Now we are going to transfer this into our quenelle molds and set this into the freezer until it's frozen solid so that we can unmold it. Now let's move on to our extra almondy almond tart crust. We are going to place 180 grams or 12.5 tablespoons of room temperature butter in the bowl of our stand mixer with 127 grams or 3/4 cup of confection sugar and paddle this until it is creamy. Once it's smooth, add in 1 egg and 1 egg yolk and paddle that until it is completely combined, and add in 2 grams or half a teaspoon of kosher salt. In most baking recipes, they call for kosher salt. That's because the grain of kosher salt is a pretty standard size. It's a bit chunkier than table salt. So if you only have table salt, make sure that you use 1/4 teaspoon because it's much saltier. Anyway, in this bowl, I have 196 grams or 1¼ cup of sifted all-purpose flour and 200 grams or 2 cups of almond flour. I'm going to mix those two together and add that into our mixer. Give it a few more paddles until everything is combined and our dough is all ready. I'm going to saran wrap this and refrigerator for about an hour or so to let the gluten in the dough relax a bit so it's easier for us to roll it out. And then in an hour, we can pull it out and begin on a well-floured surface. If you don't have a traditional tart pan like this one, no worries. You can even use a cake extender like this one that I am using and just trim down the edges. So roll the dough to about 1/8 of an inch thick and gently place it into the form. Half of this dough is almond based, half is flour based, so it doesn't have as much gluten structure as a traditional tart crust would. So you have to be a little bit more gentle. Make sure to press the dough firmly into the corners of the pan, and once it's pressed out evenly, we can take a knife and trim the edges. If you want it to be super perfect like I do, you can take any flat edge and press gently against the top to make it really clean. Then we are going to place this into the freezer. We are going to place this in the freezer before baking it because freezing it will help it keep the shape that we've manipulated it into. Now let's poach some pears. We are going to need 2 medium-sized pears, Peel them and cut them in half and then set those aside for just a second. And in a pot, we are going to place 120 grams or half a cup of apple juice, 120 grams or half a cup of water, and 75 grams or a third cup of sugar, and gently bring that to a boil. I'm also going to add in 1 vanilla bean. And once the syrup comes to a boil, we're going to drop in our pears and allow them to simmer for 5 to 6 minutes. The pears should begin to soften a bit but still hold their shape. Repeat this with all of the pears, then we are going to transfer this into a container and pour the syrup over and allow this to infuse for as long as your heart desires. Overnight will give you the best results. And our last component is our extra almondy almond paste. This is so easy. You're going to place 100 grams or 1 cup of almond flour, 100 grams or half a cup of sugar, 100 grams or 7 tablespoons of butter, 2 eggs, and 25 grams or 1 tablespoon of almond paste all into the bowl of your mixer. Literally just add all of the ingredients and paddle that until it is smooth. And then place it into a piping bag and we are all ready to assemble our tart. Now we can pull our tart crust out of the freezer and poke a few holes into the base to ensure that we have better ventilation while baking. Then we are going to pipe our almond cream into the tart almost to the tip top. This cream is not going to expand much while baking. Lastly, we are going to slice our poached pears thinly and evenly and begin to place the pears into the tart while overlapping them slightly. And at this point, our tart is all ready to go into the oven at 325 degrees for about 30 minutes or until it is evenly golden brown like this. You want to allow this to cool completely while we prepare our apricot glaze. We are just going to mix a 1/4 cup of apricot jam with a tablespoon of water and a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste, and then heat that over medium heat to make it a bit more fluid. Once it's nice and fluid, we can strain out any larger pieces and begin to brush this over our tart. Lastly, we are going to unmold our Cremeux and place it in a pattern around the mold. The only strategy here is to place the Cremeux in a pattern where you can get a little bit in each bite. I am topping it off with some gold leaf and we are all ready to dig in. Okay, you guys, that is it for today's recipe. This tart is so easy to make. It does have a few components, but they all come together pretty easily, and it is such an almond dream. If you are an almond lover, this is the dessert for you. Almonds have a ton of healthy fats, vitamin E, magnesium. They lower cholesterol, so basically this is very healthy for you, and you should definitely make it. And honestly, pears are pretty good for you too. I really recommend trying to use speckled vanilla bean paste in this recipe because those little dots just look so gorgeous. The Cremeux honestly could be a dessert in itself. It is so delicious. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below what other recipes you guys want to see, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! Killed that.
Smash the like and subscribe button and comment down below of what you want me to do in Skyblock.